So he's also doing the Andy No talking points. Andy No came out and did that whole thing where he's like, hey, by the way, Putin's speech is, you know, almost the exact same thing as the philosophies of ANTIFA. He's becoming the new ANTIFA of Europe. And I was like, how did you find a way? How, Andy? Is this your superpower? You have a way to turn anything into ANTIFA. You can be fucking standing in a train station and like a squirrel farts and it's like, oh, that was ANTIFA. Yeah, ANTIFA caused that. ANTIFA, this is a disruption by ANTIFA right now. World War Woke? Is that it?
Well, that escalated quickly.
Explosions right across this vast country.
Turns out that electing a president who can't even say Kiev properly,
the capital city of Kyiv,
and who responded to the attack by going to bed didn't deter Putin. The White House issued a press release saying that Biden will publicly address the crisis sometime, quote, tomorrow afternoon, presumably after he wakes up from his third.
That goes directly back into that whole thing as if like Vladimir Putin doesn't have agency. Like, you know, if only Joe Biden had been a strong man, a strong, mighty man, a large, powerful man, a Joe Rogan-esque man, if you will, then it could have been avoided. If only, had we had that, oh man, yeah, there'd be no war.
Nap of the day. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi doesn't even know what country Russia invaded.
Well, if you look at the map and you see Hungary, and you see how it is encircled Hungary.
Turns out that repealing Trump's ban on transgenders in the military didn't deter Putin. Non-binary people who identify as they, them, serve openly in the military didn't deter Putin. Putin's manly recruitment ads stand no chance.
Fucking Vosh. Vosh made the new Paul Joseph Watson video.
Against Ukraine's they-them army. Really? How did that work out for you? Turns out NATO's commitment to...
That wasn't in response to the same tweet. You're just taking a different tweet he had and you're adding that. Fucking hell, Paul. You're so bad at this. Holy shit. By the way, he's playing into the transphobia that all of you have been doing. That's just a response to conservatives losing their minds over this, being like, ah, fucking... No, sorry, I shouldn't just say conservatives. I should say the clown shoes left as well. The people who are like pro-Russia, Russia Today are the ones posting these like, they-them, the they-them army will be crushed, the they-them army will be destroyed.
Inclusion and diversity didn't deter Putin.
At NATO,
diversity
is our strength.
Putin waited and...
The purpose of that is not as a war deterrent. Jesus Christ, you think inclusion is supposed to be a war deterrent? You know, we put all our bets on just being more inclusive and you know, not being as transphobic, and it just didn't work out. We thought that would really scare a lot of other world leaders, and you know, we'll be the first to admit our mistake here.
Till the West was weakly led, low on patriotism and manhood, with the media obsessed over domestic trivialities and politicians with a penchant for waging war on their own citizens. Perfect timing. Meanwhile, there still seems to be a lot of confusion about whether this represents a world war or merely woke war one. I feel like I'm watching George Floyd die again, only the country version. We all stand...
Was this a real tweet though? This felt like it was one of those, like, you know, AstroTurf tweets that are just intentionally made to like get people upset.
Around knowing this is wrong but helpless to stop it. What can we do? Hashtag Ukraine is George Floyd. Reports that Russian Spetsnaz soldiers have already begun tearing down George Floyd murals in Kiev have been denied. I've got a question for you. Do you think what Putin's done is worse than racism? But Putin said he attacked Ukraine to fight the Nazis. Wait, didn't the legacy media and political class just spend the last 5 years telling us that political violence is justified so long as you're fighting Nazis? Antifa literally means anti-fascism. They're fighting Nazis. How could you oppose that? Putin...
So he's also doing the Andy No talking points. Andy No came out and did that whole thing where he's like, hey, by the way, Putin's speech is, you know, almost the exact same thing as the philosophies of ANTIFA. He's becoming the new ANTIFA of Europe. And I was like, how did you find a way? How, Andy? Is this your superpower? You have a way to turn anything into ANTIFA. You can be fucking standing in a train station and like a squirrel farts and it's like, oh, that was ANTIFA. Yeah, ANTIFA caused that. ANTIFA, this is a disruption by ANTIFA right now.
Literally used the Antifa excuse. We're fighting Nazis, therefore we're virtuous. Isn't Putin just on a grand scale punching a Nazi? So yeah, save me the contrived sanctimony of a political class that has venerated political violence as a force for moral...
Yeah, so this isn't just American conservatives, it's British conservatives too. They're trying to turn this whole thing into culture. I guess if all you've been doing for the past fucking like 10 years, rather than actually, you know, putting in any kind of policies that will help people, help Americans or help British people, is to fucking culture war nonstop, that's the only like way you know how to operate now. It's you have just fucking one speed, and it's culture war. Like, oh, there's a war going on. How is this also a culture war? There's got to be a way to spin this.
Good. Suddenly wetting the bed in response to an overwhelming show of political violence. Save me the feigned outrage of a legacy media that dismissed and ignored the riotous destruction of American cities. Now being up in arms about the destruction of Ukrainian airports.
What the fuck are you talking about? Are you talking about Black Lives Matter? It was all that was on legacy media at the time. How much like fucking footage was there of burning fucking targets and shit like that? It's all they talked about. Like, you can't be like, it's a hypocritical thing of you not to have said this when that's all you talked about for fucking months.
The fiery but mostly peaceful obliteration of Ukraine's entire military infrastructure.
Wait, did you say mostly peaceful? What the fuck are you talking about? Just because you haven't seen the footage with your eyes doesn't mean that there isn't absolute devastation going on right now. There's already been recorded civilian deaths. What the fuck? And yes, I know, he's gonna play the whole, like, Applebee's ad thing. We've already laughed about it.
Tears of NATO apologists. The same people who vehemently supported NATO bombing Libya in much the same manner that Russia bombed Ukraine. Save me the moral grandstanding of people who hate America, saying Americans who don't blindly swallow Biden White House narratives are anti-American traitors.
Yeah, you're only anti-NATO and using anti-NATO talking points right now because it serves you politically. Like, this is not the kind of shit you would be saying back in the day. Like, you would be joining every single other war hawk during the war in Iraq. You would just be like, yes, this has to be done. We're fighting terrorism. Go George Bush.
The way the right wing is openly rooting for Russia and its authoritarian leader is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Save me the cope and seethe of those who voted for the deep state war.
Does he always talk like this? I know H-Bomber Guy knew him, like, IRL, just not as friends or anything, or actually knew friends who knew him, but, like, is every time he speaks, is he always just like this, I'm only here to tell you about how everything is a culture war? Like, or is this just performance? It's just when the camera goes on.
War administration now suddenly complaining about war. Sold uranium to Russia. Democrats. Crimea invaded. Democrats. US domestic pipeline shut down. Democrats. Nuclear power halted. Democrats. Ukrainian.
Yes, please give us the opinions of Mike Ceranovich. Yeah, definitely a great source on everything.
Invaded again. Democrats.
Taking time from selling fucking gorilla mindset pills to make some tweets.
Starting to notice a pattern. Now the same people who usually hate the mere concept of nation states and borders have all added the Ukraine flag to their Twitter bio. One thing about the Democrat Ukraine-Russia narrative is that it serves the purpose of giving liberals a sort of pseudo-patriotism to use as a virtue signal. This takes the place of their obvious lack of real patriotism. They will use it.
Have you ever seen Americans? I don't think a problem America has is a lack of patriotism, okay? I have seen the 4th of July. I have seen what goes down, okay? Hey, the 4th of July, it's like that, like, basically 24/7 in America. They just drape themselves on American flags. Fucking American flag underwear, bikini, fucking pickup trucks, you name it. Everything's got the flag on it.
To look down on you as an anti-American. 220,000 illegal immigrants have evaded US authorities since October. America's borders are about as resilient as a chocolate fire guard. Yet
it always comes down to what he actually is afraid of, though. Them pesky immigrants.
the same people who champion all that are suddenly all big mad about Ukraine's border being violated. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz warned Boris Johnson.
Oh my God, are you serious? The immigrants coming into your country are not trying to invade your country and destroy it and then prop it up with like I guess maybe that's the way they think. That actually is quite telling, because like maybe they actually see that as like a war declaration.
That Germany would not support kicking Russia out of SWIFT, and neither would the EU. Nord Stream gas cooks. Wow, turns out Europe being totally dependent on utterly inadequate green energy isn't a good idea.
He's still like unironically using cuck as an insult, as if like that hasn't been robbed of all its power. Cool. Are you going to call them NPCs next?
Does the West have the resolve to face down Putin? Or has years of civilizational self-loathing finally taken?
Yeah, okay, Paul Joseph Watson. Let's see you take up arms and then just rush into Russia right now. No one has the bravery that I do.
It's told. While Russia wipes out a country's entire air defense system, the US Joint Chiefs of Staff are more concerned about wiping out racism.
I want to understand white rage, and I'm white.
While China moves to snuff out Taiwan, the Pentagon moves to snuff out white privilege. Autocratic leaders believe in hypermasculinity, raw physical power. They believe that might makes right. America has spent decades fetishizing soft, cuddly, emotional power. Putin and Xi don't respect it at all. This is the result. And how confident would you be in, say, 20 years' time? In the American military, the way it's heading, successfully defending Americans in a war against Russia and China. As I already explained in a previous video, the State Department was...
The appeal to authority is himself. As always, multiculturalism is a sickness. Fucking hell, man. Was Paul always so mask off? I mean, I know he's always been a wanker of the highest order. It doesn't really get any higher in terms of wankerage than Paul Joseph Watson.
Told directly that China thinks wokeism will subvert and collapse the West. Now Putin is imposing his will, safe in the knowledge that the Biden White House and the US deep state are seemingly more concerned about the threat posed by American parents who complain about critical race theory at school board meetings than they are about actual foreign adversaries.
You know that's you. That's the right wingers. They're the ones who are scared about that. The people on the other side are saying that it's actually not real, that you made the whole thing up, that they don't actually teach critical race theory in schools. You're calling out your own people here, Paul.
And then we're left with the key question. Would any of this have happened under Trump?
And there it is. All right.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we beseech thee to smite down our enemies. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble court jesters, here to amuse you. To our lords, Trevor R., we give thanks for this spit of land for us to eke out this meager existence. To our knights, Merid, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Ellie Leslie, Alex P., Brandon, Words Greenwood, Nate, that one guy, Hagbird Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Val 9000, Jenna Tall, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multi Mondi, Trevor Yanis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Cern 42, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our flag in a veil, and we salute you, our friends.